Hello and welcome to Verbal Edge. In this video, I'll be explaining GMAT CR question. And on this channel, in different videos, I'll be explaining concepts, approaches, and explanation of questions so that it helps you in fine-tuning your preparation for verbal section of different exams like GMAT, GRE, CAT. Right, so we'll get on with this discussion, and I would advise that once I go to the next screen, you may pause the video, read the question, solve it, and then you can resume playing the video and go through the explanation. Right, so we get started. So this is the question. What I'll do is first I'll tell you about the basic things that we should always keep in mind when we are solving a critical listening question. And then I'll explain this entire question right from the paragraph to the last option, and then understand why the correct option is actually the correct option. Right, so the three things that we should always keep in mind while solving critical listening questions are: number one, we should read the paragraph very carefully so as to identify its conclusion or the main idea. Because until and unless we are clear about the conclusion, our approach can never be appropriate, right? Then a lot of guesswork starts coming into play. Second, we should also very carefully read the question and understand what it is trying to ask, because sometimes the language of the question is a standard language. There's not much to understand between or read between the lines. But sometimes there is a word here and there, word like except, word like not, which sometimes we ignore, and we read the paragraph, we understand it, but because the question is asking something else and we are answering something else, so we get the question wrong. Right, second very basic thing. Third and very important tip is that we should never read any option half-heartedly, right? Or never try to rush through options, right? Because if we are taking any option for granted, why we do this? Sometimes when we read an option, we are quite impressed with that option. We think, okay, this should be the correct answer. And then in the process, we don't pay enough attention to other options, right? So then our overall reasoning becomes flawed. So these are the three basic things. Apart from that, when we come to reading the passage or the paragraph, we should remember that there are four types of statements that can be there in that particular paragraph, right? Number one, the background information, right? Some context. Second, conclusion or the main idea, something which the author wants to convey or prove or affirm. And third is supporting premises, facts, figures, statistics, which explain and support that particular conclusion. And then sometimes you may also come across some background and some counterpoints, which may be going against the conclusion, but the author includes it just to emphasize the conclusion. Okay, so this is something that we should always keep in mind. Now, let us start reading this particular paragraph. It says certain companies require their managers to rank workers in the groups they supervise from best to worst, giving each worker a unique ranking based on job performance. So this seems to be a simple statement. It sets the context, and it seems to be some kind of background information because it's a piece of information, right? The author has not tried to prove anything so far. Second sentence says the top 10% of the workers in each group are rewarded, and the bottom 10% are penalized or fired. Now, what is this? This is explaining the previous sentence, right? There's a way of ranking the performance. So what is the way that they are mentioning in this sentence? This again is a part of the background information. Then, but this system is unfair to workers. Now, this does not seem to be some information. This seems to be some opinion, right? And it could very well be the main idea. So with keeping this in mind that this could be the main idea, we move on, we read further. Next sentence says, good workers could receive low rankings merely because they belong to groups of exceptionally good workers. Right, now this is what? This is some kind of explanation from the previous sentence. Why the system is unfair to workers? Because good workers could receive low rankings because they belong to groups of exceptionally good workers. So in comparison, their performance pales, although they might be good workers. Last sentence says, furthermore, managers often give the highest rankings to workers who share the manager's interest outside of work. So there are two negative points that these two sentences are telling. Number one, some good workers may pale in comparison, and some workers who are not good may be judged or high just because they are helping the manager personally, that is outside of work. So now the structure is clear. Sentence 1 and 2, they form the background information. They inform us about a particular scheme in a company. Third sentence, it tells the main idea which the author wants to convey, that the system is unfair. And sentence 4 and 5, they provide some logical basis explanation to the conclusion. So technically we call them the premise of this particular conclusion. So which one of the following most accurately expresses the conclusion drawn in the argument? Right, now if you read the question, it says most accurately expresses the conclusion drawn. It means the conclusion has already been drawn in the argument. So the first thing is we have to identify which sentence is the conclusion, and then we can identify that which particular option goes exactly same in the line of the conclusion that we have identified. So if we read sentence A, some companies require their managers to give unique rankings to the worker they supervise. This you think can be directly derived from the first sentence, right? So it again forms a part of background information. B, under the ranking system, the top 10% of workers in each group are rewarded. This is the second sentence, which we have decided that this is a part of background information, developing the context. The ranking system is not fair way to determine penalties or rewards for workers. Now, this is something which is reflecting the third sentence, which we in the discussion identified that this is the main idea. Option D is representing the fourth sentence. Good workers could receive low rankings merely because they belong to groups of exceptionally good workers, right? So this is the premise part. And E is representing the last sentence. So this again is the premise part. So now we are clear that A is representing first, A and B are representing first and second sentences, which forms the background information. D and E are representing the premise part. So C is the best representation of the conclusion and hence is the correct answer. So you see, this question was not very difficult. This question is very helpful in understanding that how ideas are developed, what role which sentences play, and once we are clear about those roles, it becomes quite easy to identify and answer such questions, right? So I hope the explanation was clear to you, and if you want to watch more such discussions, more such concepts, please subscribe to this channel Verbal Edge, and I hope that I'll be able to help you to the best of my abilities in improving your scores in the verbal section of these exams. Thank you.